Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 2 of the Mummy Minute, mini-series for the spooky month about mummy-themed non-fiction and literature. Not non-fiction, all fiction, books and movies. This is a podcast brought to you by The Best Thing Ever, which is brought to you by the Completely Legitimate Podcast Network, which is a subcompany of Completely Legitimate Publishing, which is a subsidiary of Completely Legitimate Pizza. I'm Alex Falcone. I'm here with Ezra Fox. Hey, buddy.
Hey, dude.
So, as we mentioned last week, Ezra and I are the co-authors of the best-selling young adult romance novel Unwrap My Heart about mummies, and in working on this book and in the time afterwards, we have accidentally become the world's foremost experts on whether mummies can get it. And so this week we're watching last week we talked about The Mummy, the 1932 Boris Karloff film. This week we are talking about The Mummy, the Anne Rice novel. The Mummy, also known as Ramses the Damned, which almost rhymes. It's like
Ramses the Damnses?
Yeah, Ramses the Damnses. Exactly right.
Or Rammed the Damned. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of damned ramming.
You know, I just learned while I was getting started doing a little bit of research about this book, the history of it. One thing I was curious, because it ends with Ramses the Damnses will return, and I was wondering if he did. And so there are 2 sequels to this.
Yeah.
So this is like horror erotica, essentially. It's horror. It's very light erotica, but erotica. And
you can lead a horror to erotica, but
well, but here's the weird thing: there are 2 sequels to this book.
Yes. That
she co-wrote with her son.
I know. I didn't want to touch this too much. But the other one, okay. So the last one though, I think was published. It was either right before or right after she died.
It was 2 years after she died. It was very shortly after she died, and
which is
what could be more appropriate?
Amazing tie-in.
It almost makes you think she did it as a publicity stunt.
It'd be that. See the other author who faked their death, right? Mm-hmm. This would have been a much more on-brand situation for that author to have done it. Like,
yeah. She was buried, but then like it turns out she's walking around Sudan. You know, like that would be perfect for her. I
like it.
I do think
the record, like in terms of like
as a person.
Like, I mean, well, so one, I think we share a alma mater. I want to say. I want to say not you and I don't.
No, I know,
her.
but
sorry,
I would know that.
I went to. But also, I know.
Did you went to your elementary school?
That's the one. But no, I think she went to SF State. I'm pretty sure that she was
cool.
like on the list on that. But I know. I like. I think one big books and wrote a lot of them, and so nothing else. That's
by word
impressive.
count.
And having tried to do that,
you got to fill a whole library. You got to get a lot of words in there.
Yes, but like we wrote together small book, all right, and one of it. And that's like, and we're trying another one, and that's hard too. So like good on her.
I do actually. I mean, I know you don't want to touch this too much, but the fact that she co-wrote a book with her son, I do think is lovely, and I think more novels should be co-written. It's very fun, and I really enjoy the process with you.
Yeah, and maybe,
but we are keeping it no erotica because that would be weird between us, and it would only be weirder with mom.
I can only imagine. So we haven't read the second or third, so maybe they're just like. It's just like, you know, find your own erotica moment, right? It's just like a fill in the blank kind of thing, where it's like draw your own, moment.
The curtains close, and it's like this section intentionally left blank.
Yes,
and then they woke up because this
one page, which is nope, and then just skip ahead.
Nope, signed your son, and then they woke up the next morning. We are going to talk more about the ramming that happened because there was some ramming in this for sure.
One more beat. The stork delivered an orgasm, and that's how it happened.
Right. This is how he learns. This is how he finds out how this works.
Okay.
I can't imagine. Let me tell you, for people at home who have not read Ramses the Damnses, and I don't think this is a movie. I don't think there's a movie anywhere
yet.
Interesting. Or maybe shouldn't be. We'll see. I'm a little surprised just because Interview with a Vampire was such a famous movie.
Yeah.
And it seems like
I'm sure there's like a Wikipedia entry on like development hell for this.
Exactly. Yeah. There's certainly there's a project that keeps rising from the dead and then leaving again. Let's tell everybody at home though, because they haven't seen it. and they probably haven't read it because I don't gather that this is nearly as big as the other one. Also, there was the sequel was 20 years later.
I do like a late follow-up. I think that's fun.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, especially like I got to keep my promise. This is our last chance. Did you read the summary of what happens in the next one?
I did a little bit. Oh, wait. This is really interesting. They went the other way. So this was a film script by Rice first.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She
I didn't
wanted
read
to change
that part of the
everything. And
article.
so she was like, you know what? I just made the book to spite them. And so probably famously will not ever
Interesting.
do it. Yeah. So good on her. I'd like a spite book.
What?
I like a spite book.
Yeah, yeah. I like a spite book, and I like a long sequel. She's done a lot of things I enjoy, and I like that she went to your elementary school. So let me summarize. People have not read this spite book. This is what year was this?
89.
89. The 1989 book by Anne O'Brien Rice, The Mummy, aka Ramses the Damses. So as all of these books and movies tend to start, there's a British guy, digging around in Egypt. It usually includes an idiot nephew. In this case, he makes a very important mummy discovery, but has very little time to savor it because his nephew wants money or something, and so his nephew murders him right there in front of the mummy. Now,
but has choice of like a million poisons.
So there's a couple things about this mummy that really make him different. Number one, he's not a mummy at all, which I'm going to keep coming back to. So the thing about this mummy is he is just an immortal guy in a mummy disguise. This is a Halloween costume. He wrapped himself up to go night-night for 1,000 years, but he is not a mummy at all.
It's not cultural appropriation. He totally was a pharaoh.
He was a pharaoh. Yeah, no,
okay.
He's allowed to, right. His heritage is his costume. He's allowed to do that. But still not a mummy. So it's a really weird title for this book. But anyway, he has a potion that makes him live forever. And what he did was he buried himself with it and with like 30 bottles of poison in the same style bottle. Only he knows which is which. So fun thing about when the nephew poisons his uncle, he grabs one of the bottles. He did have like a 1 in 30 chance of making his uncle immortal and very angry.
I also like the idea that specifically Ramses doesn't actually have to remember which it is. He can take all 30.
Oh, that's true. He could. I mean, it'd be annoying, but yeah, he could just keep hitting him back.
Nope.
Well, one thing I love about his immortality is that he does hate it. Like if you shoot him, it's annoying.
Yeah.
It still hurts. Like he's hungry, he eats, and he's like for a second it's great, and then he's like immediately hungry again. Well, if you shoot him, he's like, oh, that was awful.
It's like they say, on the internet, freedom from death is not freedom from consequences, right?
That's so true.
You can still,
but in this case, it's freedom from consequences that last more than 8 minutes. But it's brief. But he still hurt. So he would have hated the poisons, but he would have found it eventually.
Yuck.
Yuck. One of them, he's like, delicious, but ow. So back in the UK, the discoverer's daughter is housing the mummy at her house. He's just in there for display. Also, she is super hot, which is one of the great things about a book like this, which just everybody you meet, they're like, wow, she was hot. Wow, that's a hot guy. Look at that guy, how hot he is. Everybody they meet is so hot in this world.
Did you feel this on? So there's a 55-year-old dude, Elliot, who They keep on trying to sell no. Also, this dude can get it. I was
he can get it. Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
He's 55. His knees don't work. He's in terrible, crippling pain everywhere he walks. He's very charming, and he can get it still. He can still get it. Like I'd still hit that every time you hear about him. Everyone's so hot.
And look, multiple characters of both genders in this book have as well.
Yeah.
Another one would, right?
I've not read the sequels, but spoiler, he becomes an eternal non-mummy at the end. I hope he keeps getting it. He might even hook up with Ramses at some point. It seems possible.
Isn't this book the mummy or It's Nice to Get It? And I think that's just.
Isn't it great that we're all hot?
Yeah, good for mortals and immortals alike, right?
So he's still in the mummy, his mummy disguise, but then the dumb nephew is like. Now he's really into murdering. So he takes another one of the poisons and tries to poison the guy's daughter. And then the not mummy, he's been warming up in the sun now. They keep talking about how great the sun is in Britain. So I don't know if that was a different time. But it's not raining that day. So he gets the sun and he decides, you know what? It's worth waking up to stop this guy from murdering this really hot lady.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad time to wake up.
Definitely more
for
ugly
plot
people die,
purposes.
but he wakes up just in time to save a hot lady, and so the hot lady takes the not mummy, and he's just like, "Hey, I'm ready. Let's go. I'm into you. I'm into this. I'm into this house. I'm into cars. I'm into the world. Let's go." And so then she has this very funny 30 pages where she's just teaching him modern words really fast while he can't stop eating.
I love this as a, this happens
I knew you
a couple
would.
times. Well, yeah. So multiple parts of this. This happens a couple times in books where you introduce a character who doesn't, and in movies also where you introduce a character and like at some point we gotta get them Duolingo fast.
Right.
And I don't know. Did you ever read or see? Was it the 13th Warrior? It's like Antonio Banderas. Oh man, one of the best moments of this. Basically, it's like this is. Just one dude who like I think meets up with a bunch of Vikings to like defeat like an ancient beast. I think it's based on a Stephen King thing, and basically just midway through, I think on the first day, midway through like their fireside meal, he just like perfectly has like awesome like face melting comeback burn on one of the Vikings who did not realize that he could understand him, and it's just like I just listened to you, dummy. Obviously, I can speak your language perfectly now.
I know. I mean, they give the excuse that the elixir makes you hotter, stronger, and
the
like
brain stuff.
really good at learning languages.
Yeah,
but it does. So they I thought you'd also enjoy them just going around and her being like elevator, car, aspirin, whatever. So here's my question: you've got 12 hours with a new person, a person who just woke up from 3,000 years ago.
Yes.
What's your itinerary? What's your date?
I mean, I think So I think the key moment is what era are they coming from? Is it the same?
Yeah. You just have Ramses, but instead he wakes up to save your life, and he's like, "Well, I'm not as horny for you, but you seem like fun. Let's go on a date." Like, where do you take Ramses the Damses?
Okay, this is the worst idea. I want to take him to a VR center and have him go into an pyramid.
Okay, this is bad for two reasons. One, because the Egypt replication stuff really does upset him. And two, I'm like, how do you teach him the current times? And you're like, I'm going to show him the future, maybe. Like
the future past. I feel like this is the best groundwork of just like, yo, this thing that you lived, we kind of can do it still.
VR people are so into telling us that it's the future that you're trying to claim that it's the present.
I want that, and also I want just original glazed Krispy Kreme.
Okay, I think that's good. Well, and also because those are so light, he can just eat 1,000 of those.
No. Well, okay, yes, he could actually. Oh, wait, because with his appetite, I'm just gonna perch him on the conveyor belt.
Yeah. No, exactly. I was just gonna say that is you just put him at the end, so they just come off hot, just straight into his mouth.
He's like burns, but good. Burns, but good.
I mean, you might have to like excuse the other people out of the Krispy Kreme first because it's not great social behavior.
No, he likes it when they.
He's so charming. Employees like him everywhere he goes.
Yeah. They can. I'm curious. What is your best Ramses the Damses date?
Yeah, I mean,
Bachelor number 2. What would you do?
I mean, I think that. Right. So you get to choose what is modern life. So by showing him the VR center,
life?
I would show him Rocco's Modern Life to start. Get him caught up on that. I'd show him Thoroughly Modern Millie. Isn't there
Modern Family?
Modern Family? Isn't there a movie Modern Times?
Absolutely. Wait, was that the one that was the Charlie Chaplin?
Yes, and then I would also take him to Medieval Times. I'd give him some options.
Okay, great.
Oh, he would love Medieval Times. Are you kidding? So, like theater on horses. Okay, so I'm definitely taking him to Medieval Times. He gets to eat chicken, by hand, and Pepsi out of a goblet. He's gonna love Medieval Times.
Actually, that'd be great because it'd be like, oh my god, this is very futuristic, right?
Right. So this is what I think is you don't skip to today. You show him what are the oldest things we have between, so we can like get him up to speed.
I didn't do this for my kids, but I love this idea. So there's one dad who was like, okay, for video games, I'm going to work sequentially, right? So it's like, we're going to start with NES, right?
Whoa.
Right. And then as soon as they play through the catalog of that, they'll graduate onto like Super Nintendo and Genesis, right? And then
I
after a
love
while,
this.
right? And it's like so it's like they'll go through everything, but like it's like it stages up, and then you can play.
You could
all the
show
really
him.
hard
You
games
show him
also.
film, and you'd start with this train is coming right at you.
Right. This horse has all 4 legs up at once.
Right. Let's watch these people leave the factory, and then he's like, "Well, movies aren't great, but thank you." And then you eventually get him all the way. So when you introduce talkies, it's going to blow his mind.
I know. I think that's like steps by steps, right? Like, because otherwise it's tough to move backwards, right?
Yeah. So what else do you show somebody like that's like olden times near us? I mean, I would look. I live in LA. I would take him to Disneyland and California Adventure. I take him on Soarin' California because that was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Soarin' World now. It's not as good, but still,
What?
I take him to Disney.
I do remember that. I think the pyramids might be part of that.
Yeah, it will. So the thing about Soarin' World, I forgot. I had done that. Soarin' California was great. Soarin' World is all CG animals that like jump at the camera. It's really corny. But I'd take him to Disneyland. I think he'd like roller coasters. If he likes a car, imagine what a roller coaster is going to do for this guy.
I mean, I think there's a lot of joy of just eating things that are in 3 circles at Disneyland also, right? So it's like, yeah, I will eat ice cream that's 3 circles together.
It depends on how much money I have because I was thinking about this. Like, I want to feed him a lot, but I don't want to like have to pay for Disneyland prices for it.
Oh.
But what if you just took him to a Golden Corral and he put him out of business?
He just closes it down.
He just shuts down. He eats everything at Golden Corral, and because he's got an ancient palate, he's like, wow, processed salty foods. He's gonna love it.
Wait. No, we definitely missed the boat. Absolutely, the Coney Island hot dog eating competition.
Oh, okay, right. That's how you get the money to support his other food habits. Is he goes around winning eating contests.
First, we have to go after Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi.
Well,
right?
I was wondering about that too because there's a part where when we meet Cleopatra later, coming at you, and she is like, "Don't worry, I'll figure out how to make money." And previously, she's making money by just like breaking people's necks and taking their wallets,
which is efficient. Not recommended by this podcast.
And I mean it's quick, but it's not efficient because you spend a lot more time with cops later.
Whose necks you can break and who I'm not recommending this either way. I'm just saying
no. This is only more trouble than it's worth. But if she goes and wins eating contests, that's way more prize money right away. That lady could put down some pies.
I mean, look, it's more like focus on the strength of your own neck and instead of the weaknesses of the mortals' necks. I think
Exactly right. That's a good theory. Okay, so here's what happens now. So they go around Britain. They do some like here's what happens, and then they he's like, well, I have to see Egypt. And I don't know why nobody thought that could be a bad idea.
Well, I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's maybe he fell off the wagon a little bit. Where he was like, you know what? Just give me an Egypt fix. It's just the last Egypt I'll need ever.
Falling off the wagon is one of his main skills. So he wants to go to Egypt. So he brings along very smart old guy who can get it. His girlfriend, his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, and
future ex-boyfriend.
Future ex-boyfriend, current fiance named Alex, which I hate. There's something about having character where there's a character where they just keep talking about how like Alex's chest is so hot or whatever. It just makes me feel bad. Anyway,
would you rather be like Alex cannot get it? No matter what you think.
It's not good either. I don't like seeing my name in print. Except what about me?
Same issue. I watched Ashoka and Ahsoka. There's a character named Ezra. It is super frustrating.
It's weirder, and especially for you because it's rarer.
Yeah, no, it's like. And also to chaperone because you need someone
murder nephew,
a 2-time murdering cousin.
Yes, they bring along murder cousin. So hot, not a mummy, beds the hot lady in the sand. They see some sights, and then they're looking at this museum. They see a mummy. One of the main suspension of disbelief that this book asks for is the idea that you can look at a mummy and like really know who it is. That happens so many times. They're like, man, I can really see this guy's facial features behind this.
I know that mummy.
Yeah, they love. Anyway, so they see a normal mummy that's just like, this is a lady we found in the river, and he's like, my ex-girlfriend, my long lost love, the one that got away, Cleopatra coming at you.
Problematic age differences even to begin with, because she woke him up when he was 1,000, she was 13.
Oh, it only gets worse. Yes,
and he was like, "Yo, beautiful." And she's like,
his first thought is like a wooga through his mummy wrappings at this child. It's very bad. We're gonna come back to that part. So pin in the gross part. But he sees her and he loves to fall off the wagon. So he's like, what if I just brought her back a little bit? He pours his magic on her head. She comes half alive, half monster. Which at least she's a real mummy temporarily.
Yeah,
now she was a natural mummy in the mud of the river, not a mummified mummy. But she's at least close. At least they got somebody.
Sorry, we got some lag.
We're back.
I missed everything for the last 10 seconds.
We're good. It wasn't that good. Okay, so then she is like, I'm a monster. She goes around Egypt murdering people and taking their money, as mentioned, not endorsed by this podcast.
Yep.
So then not Mummy and Cleopatra coming at you. They have some sex. They get in a fight. They have a love triangle. They go to the opera. They get in another fight. And then she blows up in a train, and not Mummy takes his alive girlfriend and makes her immortal. And then they do it on a boat. And then they ram on a boat. And then Cleopatra coming at you has sex with a doctor in Sudan. And that's the book. That's what happens. Okay. So main things that I wanted to cover. Well, actually, before we do the main things I want to cover, you had a suggestion for old time's sake.
For old time's sake, I would very much love to be fair and balanced criticism of this, and so I would like to invoke the right, because it's been a while since I read a book that is for this show, and so I would like to have a compliment sandwich.
The compliment sandwich going back to the old school days of our earlier podcast, where we had to at least say at least one nice thing in order to remain fair and balanced. Would you like to start us off? What is your compliment for Anne Rice's The Mummy?
So I think that we talked on some silly stuff, right, of the language stuff, but I think fundamentally there's a trope that I love here, which is Born Sexy Yesterday is the name of the trope. And I didn't think of this in terms of a mummy story. I think it's a really smart way to do it. But there's another amazing Brendan Fraser movie where he is a lovable doofus that has the same plot, which is Blast from the Past. And he wakes up, basically he does not know in modern society. He's been living in a bomb shelter with his parents, one of whom is Christopher Walken, the other one's not.
Which is which?
Right, you'll never know.
You should watch the film.
But yeah, I mean, this thing of like there is someone who is hot, who you like, and then you get to be like a tour guide with, and kind of see all the wonder and weirdness of your current day through their eyes is a very, very cool thing. I think that there are some issues, I think, generally with Born Sexy Yesterday ideas. I think in that they're kind of a child, which is kind of weird, especially
Fortunately, that awful power dynamic switches real fast.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been around for 1,000 years from this one, but for a lot of them, it's if there's a Little Mermaid is this, right? There's a lot of I think there's another mermaid one also, maybe Splash, but yeah, it happens where it's you get
they're so wow, you're so funny and childlike. Do you want to see my bedroom? Yeah, it's weird.
This is I think subverted a little bit in the movie Big, which is Tom Hanks is a child, and then when it gets to more the sexier times, the adult woman who's oh wait, no, I don't want this at all.
Well, right, because it's switched. That's how it works. Because the thing this keeps happening in this book is men are gross, right? Because the old guy who can get it, he sees the Cleopatra coming at your mummy. She's still got half her skin is missing. She's oozing, pouring blood out of this.
There are issues.
She's real messed up, and she's I want you. And he's yeah, okay, that's fair. And then he just does it because men are gross.
I mean, he's just he's look, I am irresistible. I get it.
Yeah, I do have this effect on mummies.
I don't know what's the worst situation. I know because he's is he looking past the beauty and that's better? Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. So I don't know. It's tough, right? Because if you're you know what, he's only with her because she's
of
hot.
her inner ugliness,
right? You can't say that, right? So I don't know. I don't know how to do this. I think it's a weird moment for that to happen. But
I can tell you're out of practice because this compliment took a walk. But
I forgot we're still doing a compliment.
I'm going to jump in with my compliment here at the top, which is this is going to take a walk to get there. But there is a podcast that I like very much that I've talked to you about before, which is called Let's Make a. I guess is the ongoing series. The first one was Let's Make a Sci-Fi, and then they did Let's Make a Rom-Com, and there's a new season that just started called Let's Make a Horror. But it's 3 comics from Canada who are all very funny, and they write scripts and brainstorm ideas together. And the first one was a science fiction pilot. The second one, though, was a rom-com, and their idea I think this is fine to say right now. It was like one of my favorite ideas for a rom-com I've ever heard, but it's called His Ex-Girlfriend is Selma Hayek.
Yeah, it's really
and
good.
It's about jealousy, and it's about dealing with somebody's exes and their past. And the premise, obviously, is that there's a normal woman dating what seems to be a normal man, but he previously dated Selma Hayek, and she can't deal with that jealousy. Anyway, this book is essentially his ex-girlfriend is Cleopatra.
That's such a good point. Yeah.
And that is a great idea for like a movie, a rom-com. I mean, this is not rom-com, but like, and they don't really deal with this at all. But essentially what's happening is he can't get over Cleopatra, and she's not happy about the jealousy. Like, she's jealous about this love triangle with his ex-girlfriend who she can't compete with, even though she's super hot and modern. And Cleopatra turns out to be kind of an asshole, but she's still like, this is his ex-girlfriend is Cleopatra, and I think it's a lovely idea.
That's a good point. And also, I want to say this is part of a genre that I'm trying to pioneer, but haven't gotten there yet. Which is this is, I think, technically a Zom rom-com with the undead element.
A rom-com Zom, yeah, a Zom rom-com, yeah.
Well, we'll workshop it. But yeah, I like that a lot. I think it's oh, and also if you want more Salma Hayek stuff, there's a good episode of Black Mirror, I think, where she is in it as mostly herself.
Yeah, she seems very charming, which is part of what makes her so infuriating as somebody's ex-girlfriend. The stuff with Cleopatra is very fun. I should just clarify for those of you who are confused about the Ramses the Great Cleopatra timeline. Part of the thing was, so he's immortal since he was the king, but he gets sad, so he goes to sleep. Anytime he like stays in the dark for too long, he falls asleep. So he goes to sleep for a while.
I do that too.
Yeah, that's so true. That is true. His last
Mummies,
to tell
like
the
us.
sun. It's kind of charming actually when you say it that way. Anyway, so he goes to sleep for thousands of years, and there's like a warning that's like, only wake me up if you are the king or queen of Egypt and you really need my help. And if you wake me up and it's not an emergency, I will be real grumpy. And so Cleopatra finally was like, you know what? I need his help. I think this is real. So he wakes her up, and then he's like, wow, hot kid. And then they like have a whole thing, but then she leaves him for Mark Antony, and then he goes back to sleep till now. Anyway, so that's why those two timelines have crossed.
It's really hard to fundamentally understand. Like, oh wow, Egypt's a long time. It's got like 3,000 years.
I do think this is I think this is a thing that a lot of people don't think about, is that the different period. If you're not deep into Egypt's history, ancient Egypt is not like a month or two. It's like a long ass time, and 1,000 years, and very different from period to period in some ways. I am not deep on this either. Does it sound like I'm vamping? A little bit, maybe. Okay, so now let's get into the brass tacks of this, because it's come up a couple times, and I told you to put a pin in it. I hate this relationship, and this is my complaint about Twilight, about Interview with the Vampire, about like so many things. If you take an immortal being and they are with somebody who is their body's same age, they are not the same age. Even if he slept for a couple thousand years, he's still at least several hundred years older than her. She's 30. She's a modern woman. She can make her own decisions. This is still an awful, creepy power imbalance. Not to mention he's immortal and she's not, and he's the only person in the world who knows the potion. So he has this unbelievable thing to hold over her at all times. It is awful. This is like, this is creepy relationship to the power of 1,000.
Okay, nothing you're saying is wrong. I think I'm most curious about, like, is there any way we can make a version of this without changing the core concept, I guess? Like, how do you make this? Well, how do you make this? Is there anything where you say, like, you know what, this maybe isn't as bad, or maybe this one feels like not oogie? Is there any?
I'm so glad you asked, because there's this book that I really like called Unwrap My Heart, written by you and I. And the way we handled this was that they were the same age. He hit his head, whatever, died, and was brought back with no memories at all in between. He's not advanced physically or emotionally or mentally at all in between. They're the same age. There's a weird power imbalance, but it's really just like it's more like, instead of him being like born sexy yesterday, he's like hot homeschooled kid. Like, he's a little weird. He knows different things than you. He doesn't know elevators and aspirin, but he's like just your same age kid.
That's sort of, it's like kind of like the way like some currency would be worth, like currency, it's like a currency trade imbalance basically, right? Where it's like, oh, this is like worth a lot more buying power wise in this other country, but like it's like the basis is the same. It's more just like when you move it over somewhere else, it's fine.
This is still called one, and there's a piece of paper. Yeah. So that's
Any
one
other
way to solve
solutions?
it.
Could it work where it's like, if like for example, if Julie was I don't know, if she's like 65, 70 years old, right? Like if she's lived a life, and like if it's sort of like the Golden Bachelorette, and she finds Ramses, are we like? I think she's like, at a certain point, it's like I feel like
but the answer, I think it's half plus 7, right? Is where we draw a creepy line. And so half his age is like 2000 plus 7, 2007. So she is, even at 75, she's still like most of the way too young. Yeah, I mean, if she was 75, it'd be a little different. But still with him, one of the things about this is that he wandered the earth for several hundred years. He slept with everybody alive for a long period of time. He's done everything. She has not. And so if he's like, will you be mine forever with this potion forever, alive forever, he's never going to be like, why don't you go sow your wild oats for 300 years and then come back? I think that's the only way it could work, is if he's like, man, I might like you, but the age gap is weird. I'm going to give you the potion.
Yeah,
I'll meet you in 3523, and then we'll hang out in space Earth, and you tell me if you still like me.
I think that's very reasonable, right? I don't know, just like go have experience, right? Unless I guess what we're thinking is, as a modern person, Julie was just experiencing like life at like such greater density, where it's like just the speed of which life is living.
And this is the problem: is anytime you say anything you say here sounds like you're making an excuse for a creepy relationship.
I'm just saying, like, look, okay, yes. So Ramses was
she
alive,
was mature for her age, is what you're saying.
I'm not saying that.
Julie.
I'm saying that like Ramses spent like probably like 1 out of every 8 days just like, I don't know, fetching water, for example, right? Like those are not like like really like there's a lot of stuff where it's just like, I don't know, 20 of those years are just milking goats, right? It's not necessarily, not that there's anything wrong with milking goats. I'm just saying like that there's efficiencies.
You are saying like you had a problem with goat milkers. Look, this podcast has really offended the goat milkers, and I just want to say goat herds and all of their assistants. Right? Yeah.
No, like I'm wondering if these are all, I guess, self-actualizing activities they had in those first couple hundred years. Maybe he's super young, is what I'm trying to say. Like in a way that's like he should, I don't know, age up also. Maybe he has not done enough.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, but still, it's good effort.
All right.
I do think it's funny. Because the end of the book is that he makes her immortal. So there's like there's a couple. There's hot older guy who's like their friend. So there's a third wheel guy, and then there's Cleopatra coming at you who's wandering the earth. But there's the 4 of them.
She got scraped off the bottom of a train where there wasn't sun, so she couldn't regenerate for a second. But then she was good.
Yes. And then the doctor is like, I know it's weird to kiss you right now. And she's like, that's funny because he thinks he's the creep in that situation, and he's wrong. But he's like, I'm willing to be the creep. So maybe that's the only way, is if she thinks, if she's 30 and he is emotionally 18 and she thinks she's taking advantage of him, but then she's wrong. I don't know if that fixes it. Is that 2 wrongs make a right?
You know what? I think all this, I'm just realizing I don't care enough about this happening that I need to like contort in order. Like,
I hope, I'm glad you came to that, because that's how I feel. But I do hate this. I hate this part of this, and it's weird that this keeps happening in these books where they don't try to like take care of it, where they're just like, no man, Edward is 900 years old and she's 16, and he hangs out in a high school every day at 900. He hangs out in a high school and he's like, well, he's a little aloof. He's in there's no, but he has to. It'll make it. No, there's no way. Homeschool him. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Oh, wait, so here's, and now I'm realizing why this is in here in the first place. It's because like, the protagonist needs to feel special, basically. And so it's like when, if you're a freshman and there's a senior who likes you, you feel special because like, they know more about the world, right? And I don't know how to get that I feel special feeling without the ooginess of like maybe this is not the right power dynamic. So that's what I think we want to solve.
Here's an option maybe, is if she becomes immortal without knowing him, and then he's like, look, after a while, like I'll show you stuff. I'm not, I'm going to be a friend to you, and then after a while we can see if this relationship develops. But it can't be started from this imbalance. I mean, he's very hot, so there's a hotness factor too. But okay,
great.
Couple of the things I have a problem with here. I guess maybe there's not a problem. It's fun for me to picture. This is the thing about immortal people, is especially right now with climate change, it's not clear that the rest of us are going to be around very long. So there's this potential that it's like 35-23, and it's just the 5 of them and cockroaches wandering around a scorched earth. And that's very funny to me, that there might be a point where it's like humanity has died, they can't reproduce, I assume, and so it's
I was wondering about that, but I didn't want to wonder too much.
Oh, because I want to wonder too much about that in a second. But just humanity's gone, and it's just like these 5 friends and the cockroaches just making it work on Earth. I think this is very funny.
I mean, I think humanity leave. I don't think we'll be around to see this, but when humanity gets wiped out, it'll be a good test to see like, oh, were any of us immortal and hiding? That'll be like
that's true.
Good.
Yeah, that's true. Right, it's like the tide goes out, you see who's naked.
Who about that?
We're gonna find out. Like, oh, it was James this whole time. I had no idea.
Was immortal without clothes.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so here's my things I really don't like.
Oh no.
The erotica part. Surprise. No, there's one part when they finally do it in the sand because she's being very chaste, which I know is supposed to mean something. Even though during the part where he's like, I'm going to be patient, no rush, whenever you're ready, I'll be here. And then he doesn't sleep. So as soon as she goes to sleep, he goes to a brothel and sleeps with every single person there and then comes back. And then never tells her that. He also doesn't mention to her that he's slept with his ex-girlfriend again.
Yeah, there's a lot of like...
during their relationship.
There was a lot of like, just him just like, doing whatever he wants and then coming back.
Actually, it was so severe that I feel like if you were with somebody who didn't sleep but wasn't immortal, even if you started the same age, every day they get 50% more day than you. So they're older, they're aging you way faster.
Yeah, there's like a similar thing that happens where it's like for like if you have a teacher who is a really great teacher, it's like 1.5 grades worth of knowledge you get, and if you have a teacher who's bad, it's about half a grade. So you can, if you imagine like in a really good school, right, you could stack those up and you could be far advanced. Or if you're in a really rough school, right?
I think you're overestimating a little bit. I definitely had some quarter year teachers when I was a kid, but yeah, I do think this person is aging so fast. Like if you were with somebody who would like, I found a pill where I don't have to sleep, it would be like, that would not be a plausible relationship because they would be so much older than you. And how do you trust somebody if you're going to check out for a third of the day and they could be at the brothels every time?
Well, okay. Well, I will say this. I think we're working in a really different kind of understanding of the relationship, I guess, fundamentally. If it's like being in a relationship with an immortal being, I feel like you have to get out in the open, whatever it's going to be, and where the ground rules are going to be. But I imagine it might function fairly differently in a couple different ways. So
sure, and so you're just going to be like, let's not even ask questions.
No, I think you say that up front, where it's like, you know what, like I'm assuming you want to be with me now, which is cool, and so let's do this. But like I don't know, like I'm going to die in 80 years, so it doesn't really matter.
I mean, one thing also, you'd have to have pretty strict ground rules on what TV they could watch because you're always going to be so far behind them on everything.
Oh, I was just thinking because you're messing up your algo so strongly. But
it would also mess with the algorithm if you're watching stuff together. But yeah, because you'd wake up and you'd be like, wait, you finished the 3rd season without me? Every time. Because look, the world's asleep. What am I going to do? I can't go to the brothel anymore. You said so. I mean,
I recommend let's first have them catch up year by year on everything they missed. And at some point, right, they'll catch up to now, and then we'll have that conversation.
I mean, this is a big difference. If you had Born Sexy yesterday, you'd be like, all right, let me catch you up, Earth 2023. We're going to... I think we should go back and watch The Wire. Like, you're just going to have a lot of TV, I think, is going to happen. Maybe that's what you do is you go do stuff during the day, and then at night you're like, all right, now go watch The Wire. We'll talk tomorrow. You're going to like this one. And then you just have a lot to keep
This is an element of lazy babysitter is what it feels like right now.
A little substitute teacher action.
He's like, we're watching the Goonies, guys.
So finally he gives up, or she gives up and is like, sure, let's do stuff and in the sand, which is weird. But she says this, because she's never done it before. She says, yes, Ramses, go for it. Break down the door.
I don't.
Instasoft. Could never do it after that. We would never talk. That would be the end. I would
just say, just for this whole segment, just pass. I don't know.
Okay, well then let's get into the real thing. Okay.
I think it was actually battered down the door, I want to say.
Oh, God.
Yes,
so
that was it.
It was more relatable to him than, I guess, as a former king,
I mean, look, he knows his way around a siege. I think I imagine that's the situation. He's like, no, but this is not.
Here's what I love about you. I love a lot of things about you, but one of my favorite things is that I know that even if you say pass, if I get it just right, you'll be like, but also play, right? You'll be like, pass, but I want to riff on this too bad.
This is such a good thing where it's like you see the mummy under the glass and you're like, I have the vial in my pocket. It would be so easy for me to walk away.
Yeah.
It's like, but something calls out.
you love to fall off the wagon.
You can't do it. But
So,
yeah, no,
well, let me see if
not.
I can lead you even further down this path. So they do it. It's unprotected because it's the 20s or the 30s, the 40s. I don't know.
Yeah, it was okay. It was unclear to me, but I thought it was 20s. We have cars.
Yeah. Trains.
British is still in charge of everything. There's
Yeah.
no world wars that we know about.
Right.
So like, yeah, around then.
Yeah, 20s-ish. So he says this thing later. So, okay, so point one, they do it. It's unprotected. Point two, later on, he's talking about what happens with the potion, where you put the potion on plants. He had this idea when he first became immortal. He was like this, because his potion makes everything vivacious as well. He's like, I'm going to pour it on some wheat and some cattle, and then they will grow huge, and we will like cut down the wheat, make it into bread, eat it, but the plant will still remain. And the cattle, I guess they were cutting steaks out of a live cow.
They also they had milk. The plan was milk, and so I don't know what the problem would be with milk because that's not alive.
Well, so here's the thing. So what he says is he tried all these things, and the people who ingested that immortal stuff died because they couldn't digest the seeds, I guess, and instead of just pooping it out like corn.
I think I know where you're going with this. I'd love it if you did not keep on going with this because I had this thought and I specifically didn't.
He goofed inside her.
Okay.
It stayed there forever.
I'm not. There's no way that's the thing that would happen. Because like they would just keep on swimming, so maybe they would go off somewhere else. All right. I think does not have to stay. I don't know what's going to happen after that. I don't want it. I'm like, it's on its own. That's the spin-off series.
I think my work here is done. I've given you the two pieces of information. Do with that what you will at home. You just you have that. That's for you to keep thinking about.
It was 1914 also, so who knows how anything worked in those times. That's what I found out. Like, we don't even know what technology we had for any kind of human intercourse. Maybe
I think I know the technology that they had, and it's whatever the stock equipment is. Yeah,
no one knows.
No, we didn't have videos back then.
Can we switch off to this? So when Cleopatra is like really into people, she loves pinching nipples. And I don't know what's up with that, but I think that's
so fun. That's so true. She like wakes up. She's like, man, I got a thing for men's nips.
Yeah, it's like I kind of am all about the nip.
I'm gonna put my hand in your shirt, and then the guy in 1914 is like, ooh.
He's like, whoa, and then
they do it.
She's like, later, I'm gonna snap your neck.
Yeah, he's like, ooh, I'll do it in this pyramid.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. There were some mummies in this. I think is the thing, and I think there was.
There was also one real creepy element, which was new mummies.
There was new mummies.
I sort of assume this is true, but I've never read about this in a factual place. But it was that in the 1910s, Egypt locals in Egypt, Egyptians were selling fake mummies by making them out of dead normal people, dead modern people. They would like dip them in bitumen, wrap them up, and send them off, and sell them to British people for money. And I believe that. That sounds like something humans would do.
I think the thing I feel worse about is like the bitumen market crash that happened when this was probably like stopped. When people were like, yeah, I want to move from mummies, and they're like,
what do you do with it? Yeah, what else is it useful for? What is bitumen?
Well, so it looks like it's a substance produced through distillation of crude oil.
Of course.
And so you can use waterproofing. They're fine. It's like on roads and stuff. You're
good. Yeah, it's like tar. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah. So that I'm glad to know that all of their investments were protected. It does. I mean, I've done some reading about what was happening in this time, and it is there's a lot of real gross things. But you know about Mummy Brown, right?
No.
So one of the things in the early 1900s was there were so many mummies being found because they didn't just mummify kings. It was like anybody middle class and above, basically. Like the richer you were, the better it was. But like there's a lot of mummies.
Were there like I don't know, like did they have to have like maybe like insurance for like a mummification thing afterwards? I guess where it's like do you want the
very
nice
possible.
or they're trying to like upsell like the loved ones? I guess for
right.
Like,
you'd put some aside when your kid was born. You're like, this is for college and this is for your mummification. So there were a couple. So one gross thing that people did was that they took mummies and ground them up and used them as a pigment in paint called Mummy Brown. So there's a lot of famous paintings from the early 1900s that have brown in it, and that brown is people.
Mummy Brown is people.
Mummy Brown is people. And then the other thing is that there were in rich people's parlors in Western Europe and America, there were unwrapping parties where they would buy a mummy.
So you told me about this.
And then everyone would gather around and they would like take the wrapping off together and be like, ugh. Anyway, I have become more fiercely anti-mummy the more I've read about stuff for this. I think we should leave them alone. We should keep them in the ground. I think we should take the chariots or whatever we dig up next to them. But I don't love this tomb digging. It makes me feel bad.
I'm totally with you. It's a very boring story if Act 1, you just refuse the call, basically, and then you just stop the book.
That's my hero's journey. It's like,
it turns out
it doesn't belong in a museum, Indiana Jones. It belongs in the ground. Leave it.
Alex stays on the wagon, and that's it.
I mean, obviously, I'm telling you that I'm very strong when in real life I do like to fall off the wagon. But okay, last thing I want to talk about on this.
Yeah.
I love the idea. I'm tempted to read the sequel at some point because I love the idea. I guess this is let's make this the other half of the compliment sandwich. Okay. My second compliment is this. I just love the idea of super friends, the immortal ones, just like, because they're hot, charming people. Like, especially with the old guy who can get it, is like, everyone is just like, he's just so good at smoothing out awkward you can't have an awkward conversation with him because he'll fix it. He's just the most charming dude. He's so good at parties. And I just love that it's like him and Ramses the goofball genius and this hot Julia with the smart decisions. And they're just super friends, just hanging out on Earth, watching their other friends die. But like,
this seems like a decent like D&D party, right? Like I feel like they could actually like make a good dent in some campaigns.
I agree. I mean, mostly I just want them. I want the sequel to be more funny and less horror-y, I guess. It's just like I'm sort of like what we do in the Shadows, the TV show, like where it's just like, look, we're just super friends living in a house.
Yeah, I mean,
I enjoy that.
That does feel good. I think. Like I think I'm realizing. Okay, I need for any spooky elements. I need something else to balance it out. And Rice has balanced it out with a lot of sexy elements. That was not exactly what I was looking for in this situation.
Me. Too much battering.
There's a lot of Ramsing.
Yeah, too much Ramsing.
But I think the kind of core thing is like, you know what? I do like a genre blend, I'm realizing, but this is not these are not the two great tastes that go great together.
Yeah, this is like if Reese's Peanut Butter Cup was like, well, this really fine olive. What?
Now with Mummy Brown.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was like, this really good olive oil just crashed into these bitumen. I don't know. But there's just like, well, I mean, I see how I like these in different. One is very good at roofing. One is good for but together, this was a bad.
I mean, I think this is okay. If I like anything about, like us mortals, because I for sure am one of you guys.
Yeah. Man of the people.
I think I like this human thing where it's like, okay, we have this thing. What can we do with it? And I think that's interesting where it's like, oh, we got all these undead mummies. Like, what are we going to do with them? And like paint is an interesting idea, as and party, prop. But same with genres where it's like, we got this, like, we got a mummy element, what are we going to do with it? And I think, they're not all going to be great experiments that I love, but I think it does, push the culture forward perhaps. And so I'm for that. Let's smash them together, see what happens.
Would you do me the courtesy of letting me take a second swing at that Reese's joke from a minute ago?
Oh, yeah, go for it. Because
I don't actually like horror or erotica, so these are really two bad tastes that taste bad together. So if it's like instead of a peanut butter and a chocolate truck crashing, it's like a licorice and banana runts trucks crashed into each other.
Yo, banana runts are not the best runt.
Very controversially, yeah. There's you got to find a friend who likes the wrong runts, but people don't like this runt.
Actually, okay, so here I am curious then. Sometimes, though, you need sort of like an extra thing that merges it together. Can you think of anything you want to add to the horror and the erotica that you'd be like, you know what? I'm interested again.
Well, I mean, I can't think of what my licorice banana runt would fix it, because I think with tastes, it just like tastes are more like paint, where like if you have two colors, you add a third color, it's going to be brown.
Well, you get a suicide, right?
Yeah, which I hate. The suicide flavors not for me, but and the answer is comedy. The answer is always comedy. An erotic horror comedy is very good. Now I'm interested.
I mean, because like I think that's the thing where it's like you fall out. Like, what if you have the horror element? Like you'd be like, you know what, this is not the sexy stuff is not really landing, and the horror stuff is not as horrific. But like I'm just like, But if you're like, oh no, it's not supposed to be serious. Then I'm kind of like back in, right? Where it's like
if that scene where they do it in the sand afterwards, they realize what I realized about the wheat germ. It's could be a much funnier book. I think she could really have had a good time with that. There's this thing at the end where they're like the big ending, the big climax of this is that they all go to the opera for some reason.
That was weird. That was like the prom. I feel like maybe in 1914,
and it was so silly that to be like, oh, for these reasons they all have to do this, but. If that was just straight up a farce, if it was just the mummy goes in this door and then like if Ramses goes in this door and then Cleopatra comes out this side and then Elliot comes in this way limping on his cane and then Cleopatra runs past him and then like Cleopatra wearing Ramses' hat, like you could have a great time with a hallway with more doors.
I mean,
slapstick erotic horror.
I don't know if I like. Okay, you got me as a strong maybe on this one. For my compliment,
yes, please.
There's I highlighted a couple of lines I liked. So there's one thing I can think when Murder Cousin is trying to threaten Julie, at one point he like keeps on talking and she was like he had made a good point and then ruined it, and
many times, boy, I have done that.
Yeah, I felt those feels.
I know exactly what that's like.
But also I learned a new word that I think was one of the favorite words I feel like of Anne Rice, which is I had to like see if I can get the right pronunciation on this one because it's French, but I think it was a peignoir. Peignoir, yeah. So this is so it's Peignoi.
Is that dark bread? Is that like rye bread?
That makes a lot of sense. So it comes from the French like peigner de combe. So it's basically this is like the it's like kind of like nightgowny type thing, right? So it's like a period piece of a nightgown. I guess nightgown-ish. It's like these are like nightgowny, like these kind of stuff that it's like translucent fabric and like it's a outer garment that you maybe would pair with a nightgown, I guess. So this is not a thing that I knew about, but Julie, who is a modern woman in 1914, wore a lot of them. And so I was like, this is a good, and thank you for Kindle for having that double click
the search feature
and know what it is.
I read this in physical book, and that is the one thing that
you just kept on pushing the peignoir, and
you press the book and it doesn't happen. Yeah. I was like, this must be rye bread. That's all I can figure out. She's wearing a whole rye bread to bed.
Delicious. And Ramsey's like, oh my god.
Well, yeah, he's very hungry.
Hungry
all right.
boy.
So then the last thing I'm going to ask, what we're doing on this series, can this mummy get it?
We do have arguably three mummies in this.
Well, we can talk about all of them, as many of the mummies as you want. Okay. So from 0 to 16 bitumens, how much can this mummy get it? Let's start with Ramses the Damses.
I mean, this is off the charts, whatever it is.
Yeah, obviously he can get it. Yeah. I mean, he's not a mummy, so it's like technically
he can't not get it. Is from what I've seen. So
he can definitely for sure get it, 100% get it. I will say, obviously disqualified for not being a mummy, but this hot immortal guy can get it. Okay.
Okay. If he's not a mummy, he is the closest to being a mummy that a not mummy can get. Like, because he has lived the mummy lifestyle.
I mean, all that is stolen mummy valor. Like, she was a mummy and then is no longer a mummy, and that's fine. She's done it. She's tried it. By not being dead, he's not participated in the one thing that we know about mummies. I mean,
we know two things about mummies, I'd say.
We know a handful.
So one is that they get mummified. Two is that they're dead, and then three is that they sometimes come back to life. And he got like two of those, I want to say.
I will say one thing that I liked about this book a lot is it has stuff that reminds me of our book, which for the record, I did read this after we wrote our book, which is probably stupid. We should have definitely done it earlier. But
research next time.
One thing that they do, we didn't. To be clear, we became experts mostly after. But one of the things that they do in this is that he like smells like the dusty desert whenever he leaves, just like us. Yeah. We did that. That was our move. Yeah, with some dusty diddles. So let's talk about mummy number 2, Cleopatra, coming at you. Can she get it?
I mean, I think she moves from a 7 to an 8. she's like on the scale of 0
Out of
to 8.
16 bitumens?
Oh no, we had 8. We had 0 to 8 for Get It, and 0 to 8 for Mummy.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, long running tradition of ours.
I forgot about this. This is a long running thing that we started last week. So Ramsey the Damsies, 0 out of 8 mummies, 8 out of 8 can get it.
I give him I give him 2 mummies because he definitely has some mummy aspects.
Everyone always knew you were the more generous judge.
Yes. Okay.
Cleopatra coming at you. 0 to 8 How many mummies? How many can get it?
I mean, 7, maybe and a half of getting this, just because like there's a period where it's like this is tricky. I think generally, and she does kill a lot of people before and after that. So I feel like that at some point she keeps it up, she'll run out of people, you know, to hook up with. So I think that there's 7.5, still very strong on the mummy level. I mean, you know, I would say like 6.5 because she goes through. She's definitely mummy for a while, but then she transforms into less and less mummy of like pretty much just like straight, maybe like wild and immortal person. So yeah.
In the cruise missiles mummy movie, the mummy is a girl. Weird, but girls can be mummies too. But she is still gross. But every time she kills someone, she sucks the life force out of them, and she gets a little more human looking.
This happens for the Brendan Fraser mummy also, right? Where it's like every
not
time
in
he gets
the first one, but in a later one, I think.
Well, no, in the first one, it's every time he gets like one of those jars back. He's like, it's like the one of 4, like regional phenomenon type thing. Where it's
but she does it sort of like by like kissing them, and
right.
It's very. They basically turned mummies into vampires, which I thought was a smart move, creatively.
Well, you want to. It's tough, right? You need them to get hot at some point, I guess is what we're saying, right? Like mummies always have a sexiness around them, I guess is what we're thinking, but they need to get hot at some point.
I mean, I don't know if you explained this to you. This is for everybody at home, but obviously this is like the main premise of our book was, no, you don't.
Yeah, you don't need to make them hot.
If you don't cheat, you just think of them as they are. It's funnier to pretend they can get it. So anyway, in this case, I think she could 0 out of 10 get it when she's in the case. 0 out of 8 cannot get it. When she's just the mud mummified, but 8 out of 8 mummy. And then, I think she's on those, it's like that supply and demand curve you learn in econ.
She ends up more total numbers of mummy and getting this even after she comes back. I think like it's
I think she ends with still like a 2 can get it because of her, it's her roots, but or mumminess, but an 8 out of 8 can get it. And a 0 out of 8, but then like, I loved that she could kind of get it with the bones showing. That was fun. It was just like
with the key glove or 2, I think.
Yeah. Put on gloves and shoes, and then she can get it.
I like where she discovers gloves for the first time. Where it's like, man, these fit like something, but like I don't have a word for it.
Oh, I love these hand clothes. It's so fun. As charming as Ramses coming back as Born Sexy yesterday. Her version is like the horror-y version where she's like scared of everything and kills people to stop it.
Which I get
mostly less fun.
I mean, it is a little. It's a little comical, and she just has the 2 modes of like killing and hooking up with, and then just like she just does like one, the other, or both, right? It's all of them and I think that she just doesn't have that many modes of interacting with the world yet, but she'll get there. She goes to the opera. She's getting cultured.
So when you said 3, who's the other mummy, and can they get it?
Other mummy is Henry, murder cousin.
Oh, murder cousin. So murder cousin gets turned into a brand new mummy, but he's still dead.
But he had good bone structure.
I know, they like see him through
this guy's got some good bones.
This is good bone structure. Yeah, they're still hitting on him as a mummy. Okay, so I guess some people think he could get it at that point.
Yeah, I feel like this is maybe like a 5 and a 2. I'd say like he's on his way to mummy town, and he still can get it a little bit maybe for some people.
If you no, I was trying to figure out how to toss this in gently at the end.
It's not a Mary Boff kill of these mummies, is it?
No, they're already dead. Okay. Or they're immortal. Yeah, I guess it's just like Mary Boff, Mary Boff, Mary.
When you take away the kill option, this is why the mummies have to be horny.
I do wonder if you're doing this also, it's like this is the year 3530, and it's like it's still just Elliot, Ramses, and Julie all immortal, and that Julie wanted to get it with Elliot too. So it's like, and Elliot would probably want to get it with Ramses.
I think they're on like a 50-year cycle of just like everyone move over one partner to the right.
I think this could be a classic throuple. I think this is a perfect throuple waiting to happen, which is would also be an interesting sequel that I'm sure Anne Rice wasn't a modern enough woman to do. Anyway, okay, I think that brings us to the end of Anne Rice's The Mummy or Ramses the Damses. Next week, for the conclusion of the series, our third Spoopy Mummy Minute episode, we are going to be talking about Warm Bodies. We're going to be watching the film because it is shorter than the book. That's the thing we like about movies. Whenever somebody says that the book is better than the movie, I think they should say, depending on how much time you've got. Mm-hmm. And Ezra and I both read this Anne Rice book in a week, in less than a week for me, and a little more than a week for you.
I feel like I'm immortal after consuming this much as well, where it's like I think time slowed down. I don't know.
Yeah, when you read as like when I read 3-4 hours a day of The Mummy, I start to feel like, oh, my life is more mummy than not mummy right now.
Yes, the balance has shifted in a way.
Yeah,
like filled up. I've taken in the bitumen of this book. And people might be saying like, hey, Warm Bodies, is that really a mummy book?
Well, I hope they are. If they are, then they've been well trained. Because the reason I'm doing this is because the last time this. Our book went viral on TikTok, several people were like, you're not the first ones to do this. Warm Bodies did it. And it had never occurred to me that people would lump zombies and mummies together in that way. And I liked it. I'm interested. The main thing is preservation. So it's preserved versus unpreserved reanimated corpses. And I think I think that's a major difference. But that maybe I've never watched this movie. So I wonder if maybe it's going to change when I consume it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have these key things, right? Of like, can you make an oogie monster sexy? And I think that's the thing we're struggling with, right?
Right.
So I think
which we skipped.
Right. So it's like, so I think that same thing. It was like, okay, can you not pull a punch, and can you make something that is oogie legitimately sexy?
So we skipped it. Anne Rice skipped it a different way. Or we skipped it hilariously. Anne Rice skipped it in a cowardly way. From what I can see of this is they don't skip it.
No, they don't. I don't believe they do. And I'd say that one of the core issues is like, like for the original Mummy movie that we just watched last week, they didn't pull any punch. And we can see that mummy does not end up like, the romance doesn't happen as a result.
No,
right?
The only way he can get it is with hypnosis, which is what a loser.
Yeah. It's not where I was going with that necessarily, but yes.
No, I heard what you were saying.
Okay, did you? Great. So yeah, but basically, this is zombie, but I think like there are a lot of cultural or like I don't know. There's a lot of like stand-in stuff where it's like okay, they play well together. I think with the mummy and the zombie situation. So we'll be interested to see like interrogate it based on us being experts. And actually, I kind of see this as a land grab for us, where it's like if we can start being zombie romance experts as well.
Yeah. Like, I like land grab more than mission creep, but yeah.
It's mission shuffle. It's just like slowly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very intrigued by this, and I'm very open to it. So I look forward to that. I hope you guys look forward to it too. In the meantime, if you haven't yet, buy the book, read Under At My Heart by us, and whatever you do, don't think of the fact.
No.
That if they went down on each other, it would kill them. All right, we got to go. That's it. Just by the rules of the milk and wheat seeds, that would kill you. For sure.
They did nothing. It was like just nip stuff and then the other things that would not do that. Anyway, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's get out. Get me out of here. Why do you off the wagon every time? Damn it.
Ezra will pass, but if you give him enough time, he'll play. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.